All right, Coach. Hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Do appreciate you taking the time. I mean, how much time do you really have? You're an assistant coach, you're a grad student, and you're a podcaster extraordinaire yourself. So you know all about being a content creator like myself. So, hey, Andrew, thank you. Thanks for joining me today.
Hey Paul, thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here. Like I said, when I came across your page and your profile after your conversation with Jose from Goals TV, I went in. I'm like, wait a second, I know him, I know him, I know him. I got to go watch all these. And your content's great, and I'm really excited to represent Alfred here today.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So, all right. So, I usually start out with rookies like you with the simple question. Hey, can you just talk about your soccer journey? How did you end up where you are today?
That's depends on how much time you got, really. So I started out as a walk on at Alfred University back in 2015. Tried my best to make it anywhere that I wanted to, but I got lucky because Alfred, one, was the only school that ever responded to me, but also had everything I was looking for in a university, major wise, and things like that. So everything ended up working. Then through my first year, I didn't get a ton of time. Got into the spring season, played a back to back kind of like 60-minute scrimmage against Geneseo and Brockport. Played really well, felt really good coming out of it. And then we had one more session at the end of that season, and I dislocated my shoulder, which put me on a red shirt for the rest of that year, which is where I first kind of got into the coaching role, kind of that I'm in now.
hmm
Worked my way back about 14, 15 months of rehab, and then got to the first session captain session that we had before preseason started after a full year off, and I dislocated my other shoulder. And
Oh,
that right there was pretty much the end of my playing career. But I was very lucky enough to be a part of I was brought in more as a player coach almost. I didn't play
yeah.
much after that, but I was definitely a big part of what was going on. Definitely ran a couple, side sessions and things like that. But I learned to find my love of coaching in that role. Transitioned out to a job in Kentucky where I started working with Lexington FC as an assistant and then a head coach. And then when I came back, Coach Blake took me on as the grad assistant, which is where I'm at today. So still working towards the top parts of my licenses and
Mhm.
getting hands on in everything that coaching has to offer.
Yep. All right, so I have to ask you, what are you studying? What's your grad work in? Obviously, if you're in a laboratory right now, I can tell that much. My
Yeah.
dad was a chemist and a petroleum engineer, so I know inside of a lab. So what is your degree in?
Yeah, so my undergrad was in material science with a concentration in glass. And then I'm doing my grad degree in glass science right now, focusing on bioglasses. So work in anti-inflammatory glasses, hopefully to solve some bacterial or inflammatory eye diseases. That's kind of the path that we're taking there.
Uh, okay, that's probably a lot more than I actually understand. So I'll just leave it at that. Um, so let me ask you, when I mean, obviously, I mean that's a bummer about your. I'll just say about your season, right? Like your playing career, right? Which you never want to hear somebody marred with injuries, right? Like that's the worst. I know from a player perspective how terrible that is. But was coaching always a thing, or was it almost like default? You love the game. How do I stay involved even though I'm hurt? Hey, I might as well pick up coaching responsibilities where I can.
Yeah, it's really interesting that because I started really coaching back when I was like 13 years old, doing little 6, 7, 8 year old developmental sessions, is what we called them back home.
hmm
And I'd worked there for like 3, 4 weeks, and the guy who ran the whole thing, he comes up to me again. I'm 13 years old. He goes, "You're going to be a great coach one day." And I just kept rolling with it, and I kept moving with it, and I knew that once I got out of college, I was going to go through the licenses and just take it as far as I could take it. Um, did I expect it to land me back in a college grad assistant role? Probably not. Um, but I always knew that the game was going to be with me, from
Hmm.
the time I started to the time I can't walk anymore. Basically, the way it was for
Yeah.
me is it's done so much for me. I wanna be a part of it as much as I can.
Hmm. Okay, so let me ask you, just from your perspective, w- ha- tell me about your season. How do you think it went? What are the thoughts around? How, I'll just say a trajectory. Like, was this an up year, down year? Just for that perspective.
Yeah, this was a funny year. That's the way I'll describe that. Is we started off and the main focus was understanding that every game has importance, right? When we're playing in non-conference, conference tournaments, whatever it may be, we want to make sure that we go in with every game meaning something. So we actually started off the year with the longest unbeaten run to the as far back as our records would date. So I think we went four unbeaten, two ties, two wins before we got into Bryan and Stratton, where we ended up losing that game, a very close, very well contested game, before coming back and beating Hilbert. So three wins, a loss, and two draws to start the year was the best thing we had ever opened up with. I'm really excited about that. And then we get into kind of E8 play, and right about the time things get tough, our team gets hit with this mega virus. I mean, we have 8, 9, 10, 11 kids out sick, can't travel, can't play, can't show up to training. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
we went from having, a 32, 35 man roster to, barely enough to play 11s at the end of a training session. It was absurd, it was wild, it was crazy. But through that, we put in some good performances and we were able to get some results and get ourselves into the Empire 8 tournament through all of that adversity, which was really, really, we were proud of the boys for that because that's not an easy thing to do when you know, go through the middle of your Empire 8 schedule and you've got nobody to play. And then we go to Nazareth, which is an away area that we're not very successful at, haven't been over the last couple years, at least since I've been here. And we pull out a win in the first round of the tournament, and that was that had us feeling like we could do anything. And the boys were listening to us. They were, our game plans were working really well. We get to Fisher, we hold Fisher 0-0, and unfortunately we don't move on penalties. But there were lots of highs, lots of lows in this season, but we think we've got a really good foundation to build on, and that's kind of where we're excited.
But it wasn't COVID, was it? You didn't get like, was it something else?
Yeah, so we had all the kids test. No COVID, no positive test for that. But I mean, kids were at 102 fever, passing
Oh
out.
my
Like
gosh. Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
and the health center didn't even. They're like, we don't know what we can give you. This is what we have. We're going to give you whatever
Yeah.
we think works. And it was one of those, like, just had to wait it out. And with the way that the schedule is now, the Wednesday Saturday, everything was so congested. We were missing a
Yeah.
good group of kids for
Yeah.
four-ish games.
Yeah. 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 That hurts. That hurts, right? Just hurts momentum too, right? An injury here or there you might be able to deal with, but if it is a swath of your team, that's impactful, right?
Right.
Um, but I've having been to Nazareth, that probably was a fun game. No, like it looks like such a great atmosphere. The stadium, uh, great grass fields. Tell me a little bit about that game.
Yeah, so Nazareth is a great place to play. The coaching staff over there is fantastic. Love all the guys over there. But in it, just the stadium itself, you're walking out from underneath. You walk out, the whole thing opens up in front of you, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful setup there. But again, it also has special meaning to a lot of us there, right? So a lot of our alumni from when I was still playing kind of ended up working over there, so they all came out for that game,
Hmm.
and were supporting us
Hmm.
for that playoff game, which was great.
Hmm.
We actually in 2019 we were there in the Empire 8 final, and we lost on a
Hmm.
wonderful from this. I
Oh
think
my
it was the
gosh.
only goal this guy ever scored, and he hit it from 35 yards out on a volley, and it was a brilliant finish. But it was kind of, we walked back, and the guys who were there were all kind of looking around like this feels like a day we're gonna get this back, and
Yeah.
we went up 1-0. They come back and they tie it like super super close after. It looked maybe like there was a handball in the build-up. Referee didn't let it go,
Mhm.
whatever it may be. And one of our strikers who wasn't getting a ton of time this year, but was giving us minutes when he could, gets on the pitch and is holding up the ball really well. And the ball kind of falls to his feet. He takes a touch, turns over to his strong foot, and he lets it fly, and it flies in under the bar.
Mhm.
And there's 10 minutes left to go, and that's where we're excited, but we're trying to keep things calm, and the
Yeah.
the seconds tick away, and that was it. We had done it, and I think our stat guy who'd come with us. He's a former player, a teammate of mine, and he came over. He goes, "That's the
Mhm.
first time you've beaten Nazareth away in 7 years," and we didn't even recognize it. But it was,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
had finally broken that curse. So it was really
Uh,
nice to get that result.
that's awesome. Was it crowded? Like was it packed?
Yeah, they had a decent showing out there. It was, their
Yeah.
bleachers are huge. I mean, they could probably fit 3,000 4,000
Yeah,
people in
yeah.
there. So I mean, it
Oh
was
yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
definitely well attended, but and their
Yeah.
fan section's good too, right? They'll give you, if you're taking a corner down in that
Yeah.
end, they'll give it to you. You'll
They'll
know.
give you a shtick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but all in good fun too. They're
One of
respectful
these
about it too,
days.
which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, they're all nice kids there, right? Like that's the way
Yep.
they're taught. Um, can you just talk a little bit about the Empire 8, sort of the competition, what you see in the conference?
Oh yeah, I mean, we tell all of our recruits here, like, there isn't an easy game, right? The Empire 8 is one of those that you are going to go up against every single team and have a chance to either win, lose, draw, close, big, whatever, depending on how it is. But for the most part, you're going to be very, very competitive. It's going to be very, very physical. The technical ability is going to be there as well. It's a pretty good mix of them all. And there's really not a team there that you can look at and be like, oh, we can go ahead and play our starters for 15 minutes and then rotate everybody in, because that's just not the way the league is structured. It's very very competitive,
Mm-hmm.
top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just curious. 'Cause I've spoken to the coach at Elmira and actually visited Elmira, um, and I've spoken to the coach at Russell Sage, and it's an interesting conference, right? Like there's some teams that I think every so often make a national headline because you guys are so competitive, right? And I think that's a testament to the competitiveness of the league. Uh, all right, so let me ask: how would you define? If somebody were to say, "How do you guys play?" How would you? If a recruit says, "How do you guys play?" What would be your answer?
That's our favorite question on recruit tours. They're always like, what's your coaching philosophy? What's your coaching philosophy? How do you
Yeah,
approach games? Our coaching philosophy, from
yeah,
head coach down to grad assistant, we want to score one more goal than the other
hmm
team. That's simple.
yeah.
The way we do that, right? The way we do that, we're going to play through the lines when we can. We're gonna move our pieces. We're going to look for the diagonals to get our players into open space and wide areas, and then we're gonna
Mhm,
fill and support and transition. So um, we like to keep the ball. We like to try and play through the lines and create overloads until we can switch it out and find the 1v1. Um, the attacking
mhm,
group that we have this year gave us a lot of options out wide, 1v1, as well as in behind, and
mhm,
and little combination plays up front. And we're definitely diving into a little bit wider of a quote unquote playbook, if you will, in terms of what we can do
mhm,
with our team. So like I said, we like to play the game. We're not a get the ball, kick it as far as you can, hope to win the knockdown, and
mhm,
and move on. We want to play the game the right way, and that's the way we coach them. And it's made great strides over the last couple of years, where the players we're bringing in understand that, and they are definitely
mhm,
looking to put that into practice when we hit the pitch. Right, they're they're not looking or
Mm-hmm.
getting, you know, worked up when they're under pressure. We're calm under pressure. We can play out of tight areas
Right.
and switch the field when we can. And there's lots of positives there.
Mm-hmm. But what does your because you mentioned it, like the guys you bring in, what sort of players are you looking for? I'll jump the gun here and just say, what does your current recruiting class look like, knowing that the whole FAFSA mess not being ready or whatever might be putting a pinch on you guys like everybody else. But yeah, what talk to me about who you recruit, what your class looks like.
Yeah, so right now the class looks pretty strong. We're about 4 or 5 committed. We've got a couple of strong center mids and wide players and defenders, which is kind of where we've needed the assistance last year was in those areas simply because they just do so much work and so much running that having the depth there would be nice. But we're looking for intelligence and kids who are going to listen, right? So the technical ability obviously will come with that, but when we want to address a play style or the way that we want to approach this game in terms of how we want to press somebody. We want to be able to speak it, like a coach, so that it gets implemented the right way. And that's kind of one of the big things we're looking at. And then obviously the technique and also kind of just being a good person, right? We're really big on our locker room culture. It's one of the biggest things that we're trying to keep in the right frame here. So players who come in and we know that they're going to work well with our players and they're going to contribute not just on the field but off the field, be good people in the classroom, be good people in our community. Alfred's a very small place, so people know who you are within your first couple of weeks here. So we want you to go out and be really really kind and stuff like that as well, on top of being a good player. So the fun part of D3 is finding that mix, right?
Yeah, yeah. What I'm just curious, what is it about Alfred that would interest a prospect? Because I'm still looking for a school, so to finish out my 5th year, COVID year that I'm made up. So what
Yeah.
what is it about Alfred that would attract me there? Because I have a lot of offers. I'm just so I'm just making sure.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, Alfred is the place to be. So it's a small little community. It's a small, university, but there are so many benefits that come with that, right? So, um, the first thing we like to talk about all the time is when you go into your class, you're not going to be sitting in a 500 person lecture hall, right? You're going to be sitting in a group of 15, 20, 25 students with a professor who's going to know your name by the end of day one, going to know what you like to do by the end of day three. So when you have a question about what might not be working for you, they're going to come in and say, okay, let's sit down and talk about it in a different way. Your office hours are going to be with professors, not teachers, right? But outside of that, it's the connections and the degrees that we offer here are very unique, but also are very well sought after. So, as a member of our engineering department, right, we are putting people in Google. We're putting people at NASA. We're putting people at Tesla. We're putting people all over the place, and they are not just existing there, but they're thriving in there, right? They're the top parts of the companies. The company that I worked for before I came here, two of the three highest ranking members in this multi-billion-dollar international Japanese company were Alfred grads, right? They are successful. They learn the right tools to be there, but it's not just the engineering program; it's everywhere, right? Our business school is ranked equally as high as Harvard and Yale in terms of accreditation for a heck of a lot cheaper of a cost. And then our arts department as well. We are world renowned for our artists. So we've actually got one of the recruits who I'm not sure if he's committed yet. He's been accepted, but he's a really great artist, and he will be able to come down to Alfred and do all of the requirements to get his arts degree, get himself into a really nice position in the art world while also being a 4 year academic or student athlete, right? And that's kind of the biggest part about what Alfred gives you is flexibility and ability to do more than one thing.
Hmm. Um, I I was one of those kids who didn't want a big school, so I always say like that's designed for places like Alfred are designed for people like me who needed a small environment, like just for a whole host of reasons, right? Some people are comfortable in the 300, 500 symposium with 20 grad students and a professor and figure it out that way. That was never me. I was always looking for a much more community feel. So interesting. I will put you guys on my list. Hey, that's do I show
I'll
up
tell
in the fall or so
and I'll
my
tell you the one thing that
2.3 GPA, I don't know is high enough.
I know some people in admissions. I think I could slide you through.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can
But
slide you
I think the
50.
one thing that gets the one thing that gets everybody when they get here is the campus itself, right? You walk on and you're thinking, okay, we got
Mm,
2,000 kids. It's in the middle of
yeah.
nowhere. It's going to be two buildings and a turf field, right? But it's
Yeah, no,
expansive.
I'm
It's
looking at your
super
yeah.
pretty. It's in the middle of
Yeah.
depending on who you ask, it's in the middle of either upstate or Western New York. I, being a Long Islander,
Yeah.
still call this upstate, but it depends on who you talk to. But it's just such a really nice place to be with great people, and again, the ability to do whatever you want to do. I think the star
Mhm.
kicker for our football team a couple years back was an All American football kicker with a theater major and an arts minor, right? And then
Oh wow.
I had an engineering friend who had a mechanical engineering degree with double minors in theater and
Yeah.
costume design or something like that. Like
Yeah.
whatever you want to do, we find a way to make it work. And that's
Yeah.
the best part about Alfred is you're not a number, you're an individual, and we look to help you with that.
All right, so that I have to ponder this question with you then. Okay, so you're at Alfred, you're getting this pretty sophisticated degree, and what is it you want to be a soccer coach?
I still don't know yet. I'm honestly I'm torn pretty much right down the middle. I've been applying to
Hmm.
a bunch of research jobs, scientist jobs, quality
Uh-huh.
control jobs, things that I would have success in as a researcher and a scientist because I absolutely love being in the lab, getting my hands into whatever
Mm-hmm.
projects and problems there might be, and fixing that. But I also absolutely love this game, teaching this game,
Mm-hmm.
coaching this game, and doing that all at Alfred, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's pretty much torn 50-50 down the middle for me right now. But the other thing that I really enjoy is creating the next generation. Right when I was at
Yeah.
Lexington FC, I was able to work with a group of
Mm-hmm.
U15s and a group of U13s, and I think the thing that
Mm-hmm.
really got stuck with me the most was that light bulb moment when the kids are
Yeah.
playing and you're explaining it, and then all of a sudden they turn around and they go, "Oh my God, I get it." That for
Get
me
it.
is
Yeah.
equally as rewarding as beating
Mm-hmm.
a Fisher or a Naz.
Yeah.
That to me is gives me the same sort of enjoyment. So I have no problem wherever I end up
Yeah.
going, jumping in on a club over there and continuing to build from the ground up. And again, I can still
Mm-hmm.
influence Alfred that way, right? By sending people up here. So still figuring that part
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know some coaches who same boat ended up actually going the traditional way of going into the job world. One of them that I know of went into accounting and then realized that accounting was not the passion of his life and then jumped and then won a national championship at Christopher Newport University a couple years ago. So it was an interesting, so, and I always say, hey, accounting's still going to be there, right? Yeah, like, worst comes to worst, it'll always be there. Um, all right. So tell me about your podcast. Talk to me about what it is you do, what you guys cover. I've listened to a few of them as they pop up, and find them, like I said, interesting. I think, like I said, I like the fact that you take the game seriously in the U.S. Again, warts and all, it is what it is. It is the it is the country we live in, and this is the league and the national teams that we have. So yeah, give me some insight into that.
Yeah, so right before COVID hit, I was still looking for jobs. MLS was starting up for 2020, and I was bored sitting in my bedroom. So I hit up a couple of my buddies and I said, we talk about this every week. We text about it every day. Let's talk about it online and record it and see what happens, right? And thus the Designated Players podcast was born. And we just did it for about 2 weeks, and then the entire league shut down. So we actually ended up interviewing a whole host of our friends in the world, right? So actually, Coach Blake here at Alfred jumped on for a little bit, and Davide Soma, who was a lead striker for a while back in England, actually is now a coach at our former hometown. So we talked to him for a little bit and just kind of got into the world of it. And, we just enjoyed it. And that was kind of always the thing that we said was we don't really care if we get big or small. We're having fun with it. So we're going to keep going. And this year in particular, we did a series previewing every team with different creators, and it kind of helped us blow up a little bit, which was kind of fun. And again, I don't think we're massive or influential by any means, but I think the fact that we have some people who are interacting with us makes it all the worthwhile. But like you mentioned, the main part of what we do is to take news, problems, anything like that, and just break them down and see what the problems are and where they stem from and how we can fix them. And and again, just try and not burn the pitchforks because everybody else is burning the pitchforks, right? Like, let's really break it down and figure out what's going on, why things
It's
are
my
happening.
big issue. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And I actually just had that conversation with somebody while I was running some experiments the other day. That
I think that's yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying that
No, I was going to say. Go. It's like a little bit of delay, but go ahead.
Yeah, it has to be. The thing I was saying was that I was having that exact conversation with somebody today when I was running some experiments. That they were all, it was USOC versus Leagues Cup, and everybody's saying, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever." And I go, guys, this is what we've laid out. This is what we think. You guys are all angry, and that's fine. You're allowed to be angry, but let's find the reasons why instead of just yelling, screaming, and throwing our fists. Let's figure out why.
I think that's the part that I miss. Listen, we live in the soccer world. We live in a bit of an echo chamber, right? Like it's just where we're at, where most everything happens online. So if you're loud enough and screechy enough, then lo and behold, you'll get more attention and whatnot. But I think the part that always gets me is there's not that like real analysis. And I think that's why I like your podcast. Like, hey, this is the issue. What, oh, not playing in the U.S. Open Cup. You have people saying, I'm never going to watch MLS again. I'm like, is that really right? Like, are you putting all your eggs in one basket? And, let's understand a little bit more of why. I still think it's a terrible decision. Don't get me wrong, but these are right. They're decisions that are made, and we might not like them, but let's understand them and try to be a little bit more realistic. And maybe that just has to do with the fact that I don't care what the game is, whatever's being played on the field, I enjoy. Right? I find a lot of joy just watching games, so I don't care about all the noise so much. Not to mention, I don't think any of it is terribly original after a while. Right? It's like the same, It's like the pro rel guys as of late just drive me nuts because it's like, dude, what are you doing? You're tweeting more. Like that doesn't make sense. So I stood on my soapbox. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. Because I for a while there, for 2-3 months, I was one of those guys who went back and was providing physical proof against some of these things. Right, the one guy who puts out all the dead teams. Right. And I'm like, hey, well, what does that trend out to be? Like, are we getting better? Are we getting worse? And I looked it up, and I'm like, okay, so 75% of the teams on your list are from pre-1996, pre-2000, whatever it may be. We lost 5 in the last decade, but you're still pushing this agenda. It's like saying, oh, we've got a measles problem because over the last century we've lost 100,000 people. We've had 1 million sicknesses, and But okay,
Yeah.
so what's the real trend here? Do we get better? Are we in a position where we're okay? Yes, right. And
Yeah.
again, but then it always comes back with,
Yeah.
oh well, that's not the same, or oh well, that doesn't matter because this, or oh well, that doesn't matter
Yeah.
because of that. Then I'm like, okay, you know what? This isn't really worth the conversation because it's not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or you're just a bot, like
Yes.
you're like, wait, how'd that happen? Like, how'd I go from being like it's only I'm a bot, I'm a MLS shill or whatever.
Yep.
I just like I don't have the strength or energy. The
Yep.
the the murder. I did the same as you with that guy with the murder pyramid thing. I
Mhm.
went and all hundreds. I looked at every single team trying to figure out why they shut down and you know I always say it's relevance, and half those teams were completely irrelevant to wherever they were. And I say that painfully because I want every team to succeed. I love the more soccer in my mind, the better. But if you go and you decide you're going to be a team and somewhere, you better make sure you have the fans because that's the majority of your where how you're going to make money. Anyhow,
Yeah, I actually went into that
totally.
list and I compiled all of those reasons. I was stuck in I was doing my
Yeah.
C license in Cleveland, Ohio, right? I didn't have anything else to do. So I'm uh, I'm out here and I'm compiling it and people always ask the questions, well, what about this country or this country or this country? I'm like, all right, let me look that up. So
Yeah.
I actually have that same spreadsheet that he likes to share, and I've got a similar one
Yeah.
with reasons, teams that have filled in after they've died,
Yeah.
the English
Yeah.
pyramid, the Italian pyramid. I mean, countries all out the wazoo.
Yeah.
And what you end up seeing, right? The data trend shows that while we're not great, not everybody else is perfect with the same or with different
Oh
systems, right?
yeah. 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 I yeah. I also think like part of the problem is that we're so far afield. So I apologize if but we're
Yeah,
so far afield. I think the other interesting thing is like the only example they look at that people look at are right the big five, right? England, obviously, right? The EPL. We all want to be the EPL, and and we're mimicking those. But I'm like, hey, you know who has pro rel? The Vietnamese Premier League, the V League. Do we want to be the Vietnamese league? I don't know. I don't know if it's any good. Or maybe you know
I think
Malta.
I think
Malta
I think
has,
the best the best
like,
example is the Saudi Pro League, right? Saudi Pro League's got pro rel. They've got 100 fans in their
yeah,
stadium every day, right? Like, and they've
yeah, yeah,
dumped
yeah. Is that what
billions
we
of
want?
dollars into it. Right. It does. Well, and you can
Yeah,
argue whether you
yeah,
you want it, don't want it, whatever. But to say that it is the end all be all that's going to fix everything, there's enough proof out there that says that's not always the case, and
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's why I stopped having that conversation because once you bring that up, you're either you're like you said, you're an MLS
yeah,
shill, you are completely you don't know what you're talking about, or it's not the same comparison, so we're not going to
yeah,
talk about it. So at that point, it's pulling the sheet over your
yeah.
head so you don't have to see what else is around you.
No.
And I've had some good
Yeah,
conversations about it with actually that the murder pyramid guy. I think his name's Brian, and he's very
yeah,
respectful. He's very about it
yeah. Ben.
until
I
it
think it's
gets to
Ben.
the
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
Yeah, until it gets to the point where it's like, oh well, that doesn't matter, and then you try and go deeper. But those are also
yeah,
difficult conversations to have on Twitter, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally, totally. Well, I think too, right? Like you're never going to convince somebody that they are wrong if they have an emotional connection to that thought or belief, right? So I think these guys
One
are
hundred percent.
emotionally connected to this notion of pro rel. And like I said, I would love to have it, but I'm also realistic that every culture is developed, every soccer league is developed based around certain tenets of their the cultural aspects of the game and what's there, what they have, what they don't have, all those sorts of things. And it doesn't matter, right? Like ultimate no pro rel, right, or whatever. I'm just using that as an example, but you see that in a lot of
Hmm.
things. All right, to come back to Alfred. But what does the spring look like for you guys? What are you going to be doing? I heard rumors that there was a trip going on that you weren't able to attend.
Yeah. Yeah, so the boys actually just got back from their spring break trip to Italy. They went and they played four
Oh,
games,
nice.
and they toured all the sites, the Colosseum, Leaning Tower, all that good
Hmm.
stuff. I'm trying to defend my thesis here in just about a month, so I decided to stick on back and get some work
Hmm.
done, which was a good professional decision. I got a lot of work done, but it was tough seeing all the pictures out there. But
Dumb
we
decision,
had a lot
man.
of.
That was a dumb
I know.
decision.
I know, but I did get a lot of good work done, so I'll take the
Yeah.
positives out of it, right? So, but no, we had a whole bunch of training sessions this before we had gone there, working on styles of play and possession and how we want to look with the ball, and then we just got our schedule. We've got about 10, 12 more to go before our spring game on the 6th. So we
Mhm.
will, we'll continue to work that and we're going to stay on the recruiting trail and try and get those last couple pieces in. But yeah, we're looking solid. We look like we are kind of grasping that idea, and what we're hoping is that the Italy trip not only helped along with the soccer aspect of it, but also the team bonding aspect, right? Going
Mhm.
overseas with your buddies and hanging out, and when they all come back, it's going to
Yeah.
be a lot easier to get them to buy into to what we're doing, right?
Mhm. Very cool. I'm jealous. I also disappointed that nobody sent me a ticket to go to Italy because I would have taken your place. I don't have grad. I already defended my thesis many years ago, so I'm okay with that. I would have been okay with going. I won't hold it against you guys though. And then, lastly, last question for you, and I'll let you get on with your very heady stuff. Do you guys have any thoughts around the fall? What it's looking like? What you think your goals would be? And it doesn't have to be like poster board stuff. It could be, hey, we just want some more consistency, stay healthy, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, well, as you've known from talking to Lamine and our other Empire 8 friends, our conference is getting much bigger. We are no longer, well, we'll be called the Empire 8, but we'll really be the Empire, I think, 12 at this point. We'll get Geneseo, Brockport, and SUNY Poly. So that tightens up our schedule a little bit when it comes to um, out of conference games. So the schedule is for the most part pretty much set. We'll have two tournaments up in the first 2 weeks. I think one of them is going to be the um, Buff State Fredonia tournament, and the other one I think is going to be in Lehigh Valley with Lehigh and Elizabethtown, I think, are the others. So we start off with a lot of really good competition, and I think from that we're going to try and get an understanding of where we're at, what we want to continue to do, and build upon with the group. And then it's jumping right into Empire 8 play. I mean, we had our first one September 16th, which was the earliest since I've been around. Um, but yeah, after that, that's probably the same time we kick off there. And like I said, the goal for us always, every year, first one is make the playoffs, right? Because you can't do anything further than that if you don't do that. So our first goal every year is make the playoffs, get in, and establish ourselves somewhere. We'd like to be as high as we can. We'd love to win the conference before the playoffs start. We'd love to be that number one seed and host everything. But first and foremost, you got to get in, right? You can't go on a run until you get in, and from there, it's winning every game and establishing ourselves. We've been a playoff team now 6 of the last 8 years, but have always fallen just a little bit short of that ultimate final goal. So obviously, that's the big headline goal for us. But yeah, again, developing that style a little bit more on the ball, being a bit more defensively sound when we can, um, and again, just building things up from the ground up. We've got our development program going as well, which we're excited about. This will be the first year we have a proper development league for our guys who may not be getting a lot of time in the first team, which again is exciting because for the longest time, I mean, again, back when I was here, we didn't have the option of not playing in those big games and then still getting meaningful minutes, right? So it's going to help raise the floor of our team a little bit, which we're always excited about because the more people you have performing at the right level, then the more successful you can be, right? So yeah, looking to be strong on both sides of the ball. looking to get ourselves in the Empire 8 playoffs, and then take it a game at a time from there until we finally get that ring for the first time since 2003. So we're going over 20 years now.
Wow. That's ambitious. I like it. Yeah, you can't do anything unless you can get in. You got to start with getting to the tournament, right? Like that's where it starts. But anyhow, Coach, hey, really do appreciate you taking the time. Best of luck defending your thesis. I know it's a big, nerve-wracking deal, but I hope and pray it goes well. And yeah, at some point we'll be in touch again. Maybe in just before the start of the season, maybe we can reconnect and see how things are going. And yeah, touch base then.
Yeah, 100%, Paul. Thanks so much again for having me. Love what you're doing with the content. Continue to do what you're doing, because there's not enough spotlight on D3 sometimes. So I appreciate you being that outlet.
Thank you. All right. Good luck.